Hi guys, today I'm going to be showing you how to string a BJD. I'm using the doll I sculpted for this, but the process is mostly the same for all BJDs. First, you want to make sure you have all the pieces. Mine has a torso piece, a hip piece, the front and back of the head, a neck insert piece, 2 upper thighs, 2 shins, the knees, the upper and lower arms, elbows, hands, feet, and wrist and ankle joints. If you purchased one of my DIY doll kits, your doll will arrive unassembled and unsanded. You may notice small support marks from the 3D printing process. These are mostly placed in less visible areas, but I recommend giving the parts a light sanding before stringing. It's much easier to do at this stage than once the doll is fully assembled. You may also find a few leftover internal supports inside the prints. These don't need to be removed, but I like to take out the big pieces just so I know that they won't interfere with the elastics. I don't worry about the tiny supports though. Once all your parts are sanded to your satisfaction, you can move on to installing the magnets. Your kit includes super glue. I also recommend keeping a small amount of baking soda nearby as it helps the glue cure almost instantly. Toothpicks are also very helpful for positioning the magnets without getting glue on your fingers, which is important because you don't want to get glue on the rest of the doll. Your kit comes with 3 types of magnets. The smallest size, which will be used for the wrists, the medium-sized magnets, which are for the ankles and the head, and the strongest, the neodymium magnets, which are for the wings and the tail attachments. Start with 1 ankle piece and a medium-sized magnet. Glue the first magnet into place and allow it to set. Next, stack the remaining magnets onto the one you just glued in. This automatically aligns them correctly, and use a Sharpie to mark the exposed side of the magnet stack so you know which face needs to be glued into the corresponding foot. Make sure to match the foot with the corresponding ankle. The ankle pieces are marked with an inward-facing dot and a forward-facing dot to help you identify the correct orientation. Before gluing the matching magnet into the foot, double check the orientation. You can use the loose magnets to gently pull and rotate the magnet inside the piece until it snaps into the correct position without touching it directly. I strongly recommend marking every magnet orientation with a Sharpie before gluing. Once a magnet is glued in place, it is extremely difficult to remove without damaging the part, trust me. So take a moment to check and mark now so you can save yourself some trouble later. Then do the same thing with the medium-sized magnets for the front and back of the head. Then use the tiny magnets for the wrists and hands. Once the super glue is cured, I like to scrape off any excess baking soda with an X-Acto knife. Then I use the neodymium magnets for the tail slot, and I use a bunch of baking soda to make sure it's extra secure. Also make sure to be careful with these magnets and keep away from children because they can be very dangerous if swallowed. I then do the same thing for the wing magnet slots. Even though there are 4, I tend to only do either the upper or lower slots because the magnets are so strong. Then with the medium-sized magnets, you can decide which hat and horn slots you want to use. I advise against putting a magnet in all of the slots because they will interfere with each other. So it's best to just decide which slots will work best for you based on your design. After all the magnets are installed, lay out the doll pieces to check the overall orientation before you begin stringing. This helps ensure you know exactly where each part belongs. I've added small reference dots on the inside of most pieces, on the side that faces inward. These marks indicate which side of the body each piece goes on and will help guide you during assembly. Here's a close-up of where each dot is on the body. The upper arms don't have a dot, but this little back piece should be facing the back. Next, take the longer of the 2 elastic cords included in the kit and cut a length that is a few inches longer than the doll's full body when it is laid out and not stretched. At this point, you can choose whether to use a single strand of elastic or to double it over as I'm doing here. I recommend briefly stringing a few pieces both ways and testing the tension and movement to see which option you prefer before committing. Thread a needle with white thread and sew one end of the elastic to the bar inside the ankle piece. Leave a small gap between the elastic and the ankle so the joint can move freely. Make sure the thread isn't twisted. The stitches should form a clean loop like this. Once the thread is tied off and the loose ends are trimmed, choose the shin piece that matches the ankle you just strung. Again, the ankle pieces are marked with an inward-facing dot and a forward-facing dot to help you identify the correct orientation. Then continue stringing the shin, knee, and thigh pieces in order, checking the orientation dots as you go. Continue stringing up through the rest of the body and pull the elastic out through the back of the head. At this point, you can use the neck insert piece to catch the knot. Then do the exact same thing for the other side of the body. Stringing through a partially assembled torso can be a bit tricky, so take your time with this and avoid scratching the outside of the doll with the stringing wire. Forceps can be helpful for this part if you have them, but if you don't worry about it. Then tie everything off and try to keep the knot as small as you can so it doesn't interfere with placing the eyes later. Then use the shorter elastic string for the arms. I'm using 6 inches here, but I'd recommend making yours a bit longer as this was a little bit too short. I then sew on the wrist joint just like I did for the ankles, and then I start stringing. Stringing the doubled elastic through the elbows can be tight, so using a single strand works just as well. You don't need to double it like I did here. When threading the elastic through the body, be careful not to catch the elastic for the legs. Pass the thread behind them instead. Once you have both arms strung, this last bit is the trickiest. If you have forceps or something to hold the elastic while you sew on the wrist, that can be really helpful, but if you don't, you can just hold it tightly like I am here. Then once you're done with that, cut off the excess thread and she's done. The kit also includes blank eyes and an iris sheet with a ton of options. The eyes with holes come in a right and left side and can be used to make resin eyes. The flat eyes also have both sides and can be turned into anime style eyes by cutting out a set of irises, gluing and sealing with Duraclear matte varnish. And then you can customize her however you like. Thanks so much for watching, and if you'd like to see how I customize her, be sure to check out the rest of my channel.